a stand-up guy and a guy who does handstands, Chris Palmer.
I want to talk about wildlife filmmaking. I'm going to start by telling you about a friend of mine, Randy Wimberg, who's 6'2", very handsome, and a highly capable and experienced cinematographer. He was in Bikini Atoll in the South Pacific at a place called Shark Pass, called that name because it is well known for its congregations of reef sharks, which is one of the few species known with a reputation for being aggressive. Randy Wimberg got into a shark cage. The shark cage was 8 by 8 by 8. There was a gap all the way around it so that his camera would have an unobstructed view of the sharks. The guy in the support boat above, the deckhand, was throwing in chum. Chum is to sharks is delicious. It's bloody chunks of oily, bloody fish heads and parts of fish body. So the deckhand was throwing in chum upstream. The chum was floating through the water, down through the cage, and sharks started to arrive. First 10, 20, 30, up to about 50, and they were, of course, triggered into a feeding frenzy. Suddenly, a shark came through. To his horror, a shark came through the gap. Came through and exited behind him, grazing his body. He thought to himself, what the hell, what is that deckhand doing, throwing all this chum in the water? Suddenly another shark came through the gap. This time it did not go out the back. It dove into the bottom of the cage, and there was Randy in this cage with a highly agitated, thrashing, potentially dangerous reef shark. About 10 feet long. He thought he was going to get badly bitten. He used his cameras, but he tried to curl up in the corner, used his camera to protect himself. The people, of course, on the boat above saw what was happening, frantically pulled on the tether to bring in the shark cage, raised it up. Randy somehow miraculously did not get bitten. He was able to clamber out, and the shark was released unhurt. Let me tell you a little bit more background here. There was another photographer below the cage in a chain-mail suit for protection. He was filming this whole thing. Now, I've talked to all the people involved in this story, and this is my interpretation. The producer in the support boat was saying to the deckhand, throw more in, throw more in. He wanted something to happen. He was looking for a money shot. Don't forget, TV is driven by ratings and money. And so he needed to come back from Shark Pass with dramatic footage. If he didn't, he may not get another job. This is very important. So he said, throw lots of chum in. Let's get something to happen. He positioned the dive underneath it, and in fact, this became the high point of the film. When this shark got into the cage and was filled by the diver below, it became the high point of the film. This happens a lot in wildlife filmmaking. You're looking for high points, emotional traumas. You're looking for the denouements, for tension, drama, and this is what he was after. Let's first of all acknowledge that Randy Wimberg and people like him, cinematographers, are brave and courageous. But let's also now ask the question, what went wrong?
Yeah.
Yes, at the back.
Nothing.
What's that?
Nothing went wrong.
Oh.
He got his shot.
Okay.
He's safe.
Okay. Okay. Well, now, Tom, I think, yes, very good point. Nothing went wrong from the point of view of the producer, but of course, from the point of Randy Wimberg, he almost got badly more, the dean, Larry.
Okay, in Jaws, Richard Dreyfuss' character says, this is an eating machine.
Okay. Okay, that's the way we think of our students, too. That Randy Wimberg's life was put in danger, all for the point of view of, for the sake of entertainment, for the sake of getting that money shot. There are three questions that arise when you talk about wildlife films. One, are audiences deceived? And if they are, does it matter? Number two, are animals harassed and disturbed and even sometimes killed? And does it matter? And third, is conservation advanced? In other words, do these films make a difference? When I was a teenager, growing up in Great Britain, I saw one week a Life magazine. Some of you may remember, Life magazine. When I opened it, inside were some stunning shots. It was a series of pictures of a leopard hunting a baboon. The final picture showed the leopard with its jaws clamping down on the blooded skull of the baboon, killing it. And I thought to myself, that is amazing. How did that photographer do that? Of course, it turned out later on that was all staged. The leopard was captive. They brought it to the tree. The baboon, terrified baboon, was captured, brought it to the tree, let the baboon go on the tree, let the leopard hunt, and they photographed it. And then they released it as though they had filmed a naturally occurring event. This is grossly unethical for three reasons. It's abusive to animals, it deceives the audience, they're not told the truth, and third, it's very unfair to other photographers who spend months, maybe weeks or months, out in the wild trying to get the genuine act of predation. When I was a little bit older, I got into television in my 30s, and I brought home my first television show to show my wife, Gail, sitting back there. It was a film about grizzlies, and I showed it, we watched it together. She was so impressed. She loved it. There was a particular scene that she loved, which was of a grizzly bear in a valley stepping through a stream. Gorgeous close-up shot. And you could hear the water dripping off its paws. Just wonderful. And she said to me, how do you get that shot? So I said, well, actually, we were across the valley. We were about a mile away. We used very powerful telescopic long lens, and we were able to get that close-up shot. She said, well, how do you get the noise of the water dripping off the paws? Oh. I said, my talented sound guy got a basin of water, put his hand and elbow in like this, recorded the sounds of the splashing and the dripping, and then matched the sound, the sound with the video. Gail looked at me. She said, you are a big fake. She couldn't believe this. Because if it had been a Hollywood film, it wouldn't have been a problem. That would just come with the territory. But this was a documentary that I brought home, which had brought with it a promise of authenticity, genuineness, truthfulness, factual accuracy, etc. You know, she was shocked. She was absolutely shocked. So those are ways in which audiences get deceived. Now, I'm going to show you some clips from films that I've made. This is of Whales, a very successful IMAX film.
On occasion, members of Payne's scientific team must approach near enough to check the general health of an individual whale by close inspection of its skin. Observing whales in their habitat can be dangerous. A blow from a fluke that weighs a ton could easily render a diver unconscious. Eye to eye, across the gulf between species.
What are we going to do to make this dramatic? So we said to Kim, who's a 21-year-old intern assistant in the office, we asked her to put on a red wetsuit and go into the water, climb down the cliff, go into the water and swim with these whales. Very brave of her, and she did it. And now the Patrick Stewart, voiceover says that Roger Payne occasionally sends in scientists to check the health, look at the skin of the whales and check their health. Now that may happen, it wasn't happening here. We created the scene for the film, which very often happens in wildlife filmmaking. You think you're looking at something scientific, something's going on anyway, without the cameras, but in fact, it's all set up for the cameras. Okay, we'll show the third scene.
Brown bears are found across much of the northern hemisphere. In North America, they're often called grizzlies. In this part of southwestern Alaska, thousands leave their dens every spring, and Chris has become an expert at knowing where to find them.
The saddest thing for me is that every year some of the bears I've come to know don't show up in the spring. This bone can provide information on the size and condition of the bear, but it won't tell me which one it was. I just hope that it doesn't belong to one of my favorite bears.
We put the paw prints in the sand. We put the bones where Christie found them. It was all staged, and this is very typical in wildlife films. Let's go to the second question about, are animals harassed? Okay, are animals harassed? When I was 11 years old, I watched a Disney show called White Wills. It was part of the Disney True Life Adventure series, very successful, won many Oscars between 1950 and 1964. So this was 1958, White Wills, and I watched it fascinated. In it, there was a scene of a bear cub climbing up a white, snowy white mountain. Big mountain, snow-covered. This little cub, cute little cub, was climbing up, nice light music. Everybody was beginning to smile and laugh. It was kind of funny. Bear climbed up. At the very top, near the top, it lost its footing and started tumbling down. It was slapstick comedy, very funny. The audiences laughed. You know. We watched it tumble, gain speed, till it gained so much speed, it was just falling out of control. Just falling, free fall almost down this very steep slope. It ended, the reason it stopped is because it began to bang into the bare rock at the bottom of the mountain. And still people watching this thinking, well, this is natural, we're just looking at a natural thing, you know, it's just authentic, you know, it's just amazing how this photographer got this shot. But of course we now know that was all staged. It was in a studio. The mountain, so-called, was fabricated in the studio. The snow was all false. The cubs were brought in, they were counted. There were probably about 10 cubs there, because you know when you make films, you do things over and over again to get right. Probably wasn't the only 4, you know, several. So it's it's very abusive. And don't forget why that was made, to amuse people. Now the third question, is conservation advanced? Okay, this is an interesting question. Not easy to give the answer. Put your hand up if you remember seeing Blue Planet about 10 years ago, roughly, some of you, yeah, okay. So a friend of mine, Hardy Jones, went to a fundraiser about this time in Los Angeles, and a wealthy donor came up to Hardy Jones and said to him, Hardy, I don't know why we're having this fundraiser for the oceans. I've just watched Blue Planet. Everything's great. Because Blue Planet had no mention of toxics, no mention of overfishing, no mention of all the problems we've got, climate change, all that we have with the oceans. If you look at Shark Week, or Predators of War from National Geographic, or Uncut and Untamed on Animal Planet, all these programs demonize animals. They celebrate attacks of animals on people. People see programs like these on television and think, well, these are dangerous animals. Do they really need that protection? There's a sort of a paradox, I think, in that most wildlife filmmakers are very pro-conservation. They are conservationists. But most of the films we see on television about wildlife are not conservation. How do you explain that paradox? Well, I think the explanation is that television is a money game. I used to think naively that television, what my job was all about, was producing programs for audiences. That is naive. What it is television is about producing demographically desirable audiences for advertisers. Even the best endeavors need shaking up from time to time. Thank you.